back at it, and we are working through still the first section, which is to the White House AI. We'll go from the top. So the first pillar is to accelerate AI innovation, and this is America's AI action plan. So this is how we're going to win the AI race. So pillar number one, accelerate AI innovation, and the way the government plans on doing that, aside from all of these ways, the way they plan on doing that is by supporting next generation manufacturing. So what is that, right? Uh-oh. Fundamental shift in how products are designed. Away from cost-driven approaches to a more holistic, value-driven model. Okay, cool. So it's leveraging automation to make it better. It's reducing overhead with new manufacturing processes. And then using robotics to keep improving the tasks. All right, they've got their own website. Let's check it out. Okay, I don't think this is related. Whoops. So, next generation manufacturing. AI will enable a wide range of new innovations in the physical world. Okay, so this is the way they're framing it is actually manufacturing the next generation of technologies, autonomous cars, drones, and stuff that doesn't even exist yet. Okay, so here's how they want to do that through policy. Here's how they recommend we achieve that. That's what I like to see. Number one is they're trying to give more funding to these agencies using research grants, that kind of stuff, and allocating it towards manufacturing new technology. And the other priority, which is interesting, is they want to look into American robotics and drone manufacturing and figure out what supply chain challenges there are. I think that's huge. I think there's a lot of implications of companies like DJI, a China owned company, owning a majority of production of autonomous, or really just owning almost all drone production. I think if America can get involved in that, it will only help our nation stay competitive. So, just to kind of drive home why this is important, right now, a Chinese corporation owns at least 70% of all drone production in the United States. Of course, that alone poses national security risks. especially when you consider that they've already taken anti US actions by allowing drones to fly over airports, wildfires, and the White House, which were all previously no fly zones. By removing the restrictions to especially when you consider that DJI has already taken actions that have threatened the US by removing the geofencing on their drones that allows them to now fly over US airports, wildfires, and important buildings like the White House. Of course, DJI put out a response article that talks about how the White House is banning innovation. Let's check out this chart. They claim it will decimate first responder drone fleets, estimated to be 50 billion by the end of the decade. 90% of public safety drones will no longer exist. Let's check out the Pearland Police Department. Florida has $200 million of drones. Oh man. This would be like a huge business opportunity. Compliant alternatives. So, oh, man, you have to figure out what compliance is, and you could actually make a ton of money off of this. All in all, though, I think if the US produces the infrastructure to, but realistically, a lot of these arguments are about, but realistically, a lot of these arguments are centered around supply constraints. So if the US, like they're planning on doing, is creating the infrastructure for production of drones, you may not actually see any of these problems at all. And you could potentially take that market for drones, cut into that 70% ownership from a single corporation, and produce a lot of value for people around the world. We'll see how it goes. The next way the US is planning on accelerating AI innovation is by investing in AI enabled science. This is a big one, and I've got some really cool tools that I can show you that have popped up recently on this topic. Let's see what they have to say. So, what they're saying here is that AI will transform science. It can already generate models and formulate hypotheses. But there needs to be a culture shift and there need to be more resources allocated in order to enable that. But what they're expecting is this will streamline innovation and enable ideas to quickly be adopted, not just tested and experimented on and proven, but also adopted in the corporate sector. But also adopted in the corporate sector. Here's what they recommend to achieve this. Oh. Okay. Here's how they recommend we achieve this. They want to invest in cloud enabled labs. It looks like they want to prioritize research organizations using AI and other tools. This one would be huge. Incentivizing researchers to release more high quality data sets publicly. Right? The more data we can get into the hands of US researchers, the better we can produce research models, we can prove theories, and the better we can build out the capabilities that will shape the future. And of course, you can see that this is almost the same thing, but it's interesting that they can actually require federally funded researchers to disclose more information. The next way the government is planning, the next way the White House is planning on driving AI innovation is by building world class scientific data sets. This is a big one. Let's talk about it. So there's so many cool things just in this introduction. High quality data has become a national strategic asset. That's big for any researchers, any corporations, anyone that's compiling data to think that your data has become a national strategic priority and asset. And I love that they talk about being on the forefront of data set curation, of data curation. I love that they talk about being on the forefront of data curation and balancing that with protecting people's information, their rights, their privacy, their civil liberties. Right? Because a lot of times those are in complete contrast. Here's how they recommend we accomplish this. They're tasking the National Science and Technology Council to create a baseline standard for data sets. For the baseline standard of data set quality, which is huge because that unifies all of the inputs for anyone to use. Let's break this one down. They want to promote the regulations in the confidential information protection. They want to promote the Confidential Information Protection and Statistical Efficiency Act of 2018's guidance. To help federal information become more accessible for statistics while balancing protection of users' information. They want to create their own secure compute environments for government use cases. They want to promote the use cases on their website. And they want to start working towards whole genome sequencing of all biological domains. Of all biological domains to build out data sets of genetic information. It's interesting, but kind of creepy. The next way they want to accelerate AI adoption is by advancing the science of AI itself. Let's see what they mean by that. So they said, so basically what they're saying is generative AI was a breakthrough that the US was leading. They want to make sure that they continue to be the leaders in whatever breakthroughs come next. And the way they're doing that is with money, baby. Here's how they recommend implementing that. And the only way they recommend implementing that is by prioritizing investments in the future of AI capabilities. And the way they recommend accomplishing this is by prioritizing investments in researching future AI capabilities. Invest in the next way they the next way they hope to drive AI innovation I think it's adoption. The next way they hope to accelerate AI adoption is by investing in AI interpretability, control, and robustness breakthroughs. Let's break down what that means. A lot of AI systems are really black boxes where you see the input and you see the output. And a lot of what's going on behind the scenes is a question mark. And this causes concerns, especially when you think about it in terms of national security or other applications in the government. So, the more we understand these systems, the more confidence we can have in using it and transforming our government with these tools. Here's how they recommend we accomplish this. So they want DARPA to release a technology development program to better understand how these systems work. And funny enough, DARPA actually already has a pretty simple chart that kind of breaks down this problem. So there's complex AI systems that we want to use for all these important use cases. But a lot of times we don't have, as the user, the control we need to be able to understand, trust, and validate the information that's coming through. So that's where their explainable artificial intelligence program, or XAI, comes in. Although this program has been around for a while, so I don't know if they're going to expand it in response to this action plan or if they're going to spin up something entirely new. They want to prioritize funding for this kind of research. And the DoD and a few other agencies are recommended to partner with academic. And the DoD and other agencies are recommended to launch an AI hackathon to work with researchers to build out use cases. And this is something that the Space Force is already doing. And they're currently in the middle of their second Space Force hackathon. The next way the White House wants to accelerate AI innovation is by building an AI evaluations ecosystem. Let's break down what that means. So it looks like they hope through evaluations, they can prove AI's value, especially in regulated industries. This could get very Orwellian very fast. Here's what they recommend the government does to accomplish this. They want to publish guidelines and resources for helping agencies test their own use cases against AI tools while still complying with the laws that exist. They want to support research and evaluation of AI models. They want to conduct a biannual meeting for cross They want to conduct a biannual meeting for cross agency information sharing. They also want to create AI test beds for testing AI in real world use cases. They talk about this touching economic verticals like agriculture, transportation, and healthcare delivery. And they want to convene the NIST AI Consortium, which is a organization which is a group of over 280 organizations that builds guidelines and standards for AI. And they want them to define new metrics of science for developing AI. The next thing that the White House wants to do is accelerate AI adoption, specifically in the government. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what that looks like. I love this one because this is literally this is my job. This is great. Right? As government employees, we want to serve our people as efficiently and effectively as possible. They want to find slow manual processes that are ineffective and make them better. And this all helps serve the American people better. I love that. Here's how they recommend we accomplish that. This is cool. They're creating a Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer Council. For interagency coordination and collaboration for AI in the government. This is cool. That council is going to initiate strategic coordination and collaboration. And it looks like that council is going to have a direct line to other councils, including the president's management, chief data officer, chief information officer, interagency council, and a few other ones. Oh, this is going to be so cool. They want to create a cross agency talent exchange program for innovators to come into other agencies that need help and start building out capabilities. This would be awesome. They want to create an AI procurement toolbox to formalize processes for to facilitate uniformity between tools and between agencies. They want to create a toolbox for getting new tools between agencies and standardizing everything. And this would make the tools accessible to everyone within the government from one source. Frick, what's his name? This would be really cool. Implement an advanced technology transfer and capability sharing program with the General Services Agency Administration. With the General Services Administration to quickly transfer advanced AI capabilities and use cases between agencies. So, what that means is we come up with something, we can send it to another organization. That would be huge for driving innovation within the entire government. They want to ensure that everybody within reason has access to frontier models if it would help them in their use cases. And the last way they want to recommend, oh, and the last way they want to accelerate AI in the government is to convene a cohort of agencies with high impact service providers which are services that impact a lot of Americans. To pilot AI specifically to use AI to help Americans get the services they need. Okay. Cool. So the next stream is going to be great because we are driving adoption of AI in the DoD, protecting government AI innovations, and combating disinformation. So I'm really excited about this. This is, oh man, this is crazy. And you see these things happening all around. Okay. I will see you tomorrow. Adios.